Gambling Act Subcommittee, 15th of October, 10 a.m. or a few minutes later. My name's Craig Monks, Councillor Craig Monks from Bedminster Ward. I'd like to ask my colleagues to either side to introduce themselves, please. I'll start to the left, ladies first.
Good morning, my name's Councillor Emma Parker and I represent Puddletown and Lower Winterbourne Ward.
Good morning, my name's Andrew Starr, Councillor Andrew Starr. I represent Upton and Lidship.
Thank you, and I'll also ask any officers and other members present to introduce themselves, and we'll go to the left and we'll go around the room this way and we'll end up back to the chair.
So my name's Hannah Massey and I'm the legal representative to the committee.
And I'm Laura Alty from Legal Services as well.
That's fine, shall I go? John Miles, Democratic Services Officer. I'll be taking the minutes for this meeting. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lewis Wicks, Democratic Services Officer Apprentice, here to do the hybrid.
I'm Catherine Miller, Senior Licensing Officer and Report Author.
Good morning, I'm Angelo Figuera and I applied for the license and well, you can present yourself.
Tony Hannan from Crown Square Gallery, the gallery that we're applying the license for.
Hello, I'm Nigel Swetnam. I'm a resident of Market Hall. Okay.
And I was just going to say, just for councillors, officers and members of the public, if you're using the microphones, if you turn them on and remember to turn them off afterwards, it helps with me pointing at you and telling you what to do. Marvellous. So we will go to item 1 of the agenda, election of chair, please. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Councillor Craig Monks to be chair of this meeting.
I'll second that.
That's convenient, if I'm sat in the middle. Thank you very much for that. So then I'll carry on and chair this meeting. So then we'll move to item 2. Any apologies, please?
There are no apologies for absences. Thank you.
And then item 3, any declarations of interest? I have none.
No, none.
Perfect. So then we'll move to item 4, the application for a new premises licence for Unit A, Market Hall, 2 Crown Square, Poundbury, DT1 3JJ. And I'd like to start by asking the officer to present the case, please.
Thank you, Chair. As you say, this is a hearing to consider a new premises licence application for the Unit A, Market Hall 2, Crown Square, Poundbury, Dorchester. The application is for alcohol sales for consumption on and off the premises, Monday to Sunday from 0900 to 2300 hours. Although the application form has been marked for live and recorded music, the Live Music Act of 2012 allows that any premises with a licence for consumption of alcohol on the premises can have live amplified music and recorded music between 0800 and 2300 without a licence, providing there are no more than 500 people. The Live Music Act also states that any conditions relating to this entertainment would not have an effect between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. Dorset Police requested a number of conditions to be added to the licence if it were to be granted, which the applicant has agreed to, and the conditions from the police can be found at Appendix 2. There were 3 relevant representations received from interested parties, and I'd like to point out that one of the representations wasn't included in the original report due to an administrative error. This has been rectified and was added as a supplemental to the agenda, and all parties and members have had this representation. The representations received were made on the licensing objective of prevention of public nuisance, and their comments can be found at Appendix 3. An email was sent to licensing to the people who had submitted a representation on behalf of the applicant to address the issues raised. The email also included a number of conditions requested by the police to be added to the licence if it were to be granted. The parties responded that the email and the police conditions had not alleviated their concerns, and the email and subsequent responses can be found at Appendix 4 and 5. The options that are available to the subcommittee today after they have considered all the information in the report, the written representations and anything said at the hearing is to grant the licence subject to such conditions as the authority considers appropriate, for the promotion of the licence objectives and the mandatory conditions, to exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, to refuse to specify the person in the licence as a designated premises supervisor, or to reject the application. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'd just like to ask any councillors, the applicant, or legal bodies responsible if they have any questions of the report. I'll start with councillors.
I have no questions for the report.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. In which case, I'll go to the applicant. If either of you, I don't mind which or both, if you have any questions at all for the officer, please feel free to ask. If you don't have any questions right now, that's fine as well.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And our legal team, any questions at all? And sir?
You have one little question, actually. I know that there was one other objection, and I just wondered if the licensing officer could explain why it was not included.
Which one are you talking about?
From the land.
Yeah, it was refused because it was mainly relating to the terms of the lease of the property, as to whether it could be used as an art gallery or a bar. So they were told if they couldn't have it on those bases because that's a matter between the landlord and the tenant. They didn't come back to me to say they wanted to enhance their objection for any other reason. So.
Gentlemen, this is your opportunity to add anything to the report or give any representations from yourself, please.
So basically, what I can say is in the first application is mentioned a wine bar, but that of course was a mistake, and I recognize the mistake. I wrote an email about that because we know also the destination of the building is not possible to do that. So, but what we applied for the license is mainly for because it's an art gallery with precious artworks. We want to organize the events for the art gallery, so not every day, of course, but occasionally. And the idea, for example, the live music was, for example, a grand piano or a violin, so without any amplified music. So because I'm referring to the notes in the emails, so I don't think it will be a problem for the noise. And also, in some objections we read about food. There is no kitchen in the art gallery, and won't be any. The only food will be coming from external catering. And I think we covered all the points because it was mainly only about the food and the noise that you problems. And maybe something was, you want to say something, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Yes. Just to go on from Angelo's point, is that the art gallery per se is quite a prestigious art gallery. It's not even in the realms of thinking of any wine bar or a music venue or such like. It's a very attractive building, and the residents, I feel a lot of the residents come and see me. I've had discussions with the developer, who obviously at the first stage was thinking wine bar, no. And we had a long meeting, myself and Angelo. He was very satisfied with the building. And actually, funny enough, when I had the opening for the wine bar and invited a number of people to come, he was present. He was the managing director of Morrish, and said what a marvellous place it was. It should be a wine bar, Tony. And I was like, oh, it's a gallery. So the application really is based on the gallery being able to present for my artists, for a show, to have private venue events in the gallery. So when an artist comes along and wants to display his work, obviously the gallery has to support the artist, and thereon saying, would you like food involved, and etc. I've had my local bank, which was Handelsbanken, ask me if they could rent the gallery for a private event to do their wealth management, etc. And a few other companies have done the same, being that the space is really limited and they want a quality space. And I'm not saying it's because it's my gallery, but it's a very, very beautiful quality space, and it's very, very new. So to think about even the auspice of having a wine bar really wouldn't sit well with the gallery, because there is some expensive art that Angelo has just noticed. And on our application where we put a seating plan in there, and it wasn't just a seating plan for the wine bar, it was basically our idea of a seating plan if we have an event and a social event. The thing about music, the speakers is a no-no. I know there is an establishment that has cocktail and a bar and music in a venue, which is literally 50 yards from the gallery. So that's not our intention. Our intention is to have maybe a small baby grand sitting in there, a local artist to play on the piano for the events, and maybe a wonderful violinist or something like that. So we're looking totally different away from having anything associated to, as I'm saying, with the wine bar. We're looking at being able to supply a sitting for people to come as an exhibition side to enjoy the gallery, and us being able to supply something that they might need. And obviously wine or beer and food, which is not produced on the premises, which will be supplied to the venue, wouldn't pose a problem. So just to air these points going through the objection, that's not our intention going the wine bar. So I feel that if there was, someone saying, oh, loud music and food and the waste and etc., that's really not going to be the case, because that's not really our application. Thank you.
Sorry, do you have anything to add, or are you just apologising for the microphone? Don't worry. We'll do it. We'll do it. At this point, I'm just going to ask colleagues, officer and legal team, if they have any questions of yourself. I'll start with councillors first, please. Any questions at all from either of you?
No, none from me, thank you.
I've just got some on clarification. You obviously mentioned that on your application you had it for a wine bar, and obviously that was a mistake that you shouldn't have done. You mentioned that it's going to be occasional events, and I know that you've put this in your representation, but I just wanted clarification on this. You said about occasional events and private events. So are they going to be events where there's going to be invitations sent out for these events?
Yes, there'll be invitations. If an artist is coming and wants to exhibit in the gallery, and some of the major artists might want to come along and say, can we have a backup and bring people to the event and hold an exhibition, we would say, yes, that's great, because that type of business really goes hand in hand with the gallery. That's what artists expect. Local galleries here in Dorchester do exactly the same. So it's a sort of given within nice established galleries that they hold that type of event. So yeah, that's what we're envisaging, private and whatever.
And I'm sure it's in the representation somewhere, but I can't find it right now. With regards to your exhibitors that you have and any staff that you might have, if they were going to be, if you were going to have an evening where people were going to be served, like canapes or drinks, your staff and actually your guests, what's your total capacity?
All right. The capacity for the event? Maximum capacity, I would say, personally, from what I'm thinking of is maybe about 60 to 70 people. You know, it's a big space, and there's the outside sort of overflow on the canopy at the front, which I discussed with the duchy and the developer of turning that landing space into an attractive garden-looking area, and the duchy were sort of, you know, completely 100% with that, as with the developer. So I think 60 would be, you know, very manageable. Someone said to me, "Oh, you can hold 100," and I don't want to do that. I think it can be overwhelming if you have too many people at an event, because you can't get around, and the artist needs to get around to talk to people, etc. So I think 60 to 70 will be max.
And you can answer this question if you wish, but it's not something that I would want to tie you to, obviously, because it could come back. How many events do you approximately think that you would be having throughout a year?
We discussed about the number of events through the arts, and obviously being approached by other people. If we were, and this is other people I'm saying for private venues or private events, I would say it wouldn't be more. I would be surprised if it was 40 a year. If it was 50, that would be you know, a push for us.
Thank you. I have no further questions at the moment. Thank you.
I'd just like to move to our officer. Any questions at all?
No questions from me, thank you.
And just so you don't feel left out, no questions from legal. And sir, I would... Sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't do two things at once. Yeah, don't worry. I'd like to invite any questions you might have. You'll also have an opportunity in a moment to give a statement. So if you have any questions first, and then I'll allow you to speak afterwards. Okay? In which case, I'd like to give you the opportunity to make any statements you might have. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, members of the Licensing Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nigel Swetnam, and my wife and I live in an apartment directly above the commercial units in Market Hall. Our floor area is effectively the ceiling of the units below, and we have windows and a balcony overlooking the front portico where potentially customers and drinkers would gather if the license is granted. There are 5 other residential apartments in the building and many others nearby. To be clear, we have read and are aware of the qualifications that the applicant submitted as a response to objections, as he's subsequently done, describing a limited use. However, the formal application before this committee is not that. The application seeks a license for a wine bar and gallery with licensing hours between 9 in the morning and 11 at night for 7 days a week. That is the formal application, and that is the application to which I respond. Our personal position as residents, like others, is that we are extremely concerned about and object to the proposal on the grounds of potential public nuisance and also disorder through noise, including music, permeating the floor and surroundings, smoking and drinking outside the premises, behaviour linked to the consumption of alcohol, and the movement of people to and from the premises, all in a quiet residential area with some commercial outlets where this type of use was never envisaged. This latter point is clear from the rules governing the use of the commercial units. Under the terms of the lease and title deeds for Market Hall, the occupant is not permitted to use the commercial units, quotes, otherwise than for a use within Class A1 or B1 of the Town and Country Planning, brackets, Use Classes Order 1987. As you will know, those classes expressly do not include the serving of alcohol. Since the residents of Market Hall have recently been adopted as directors and shareholders of the management company, any dispute over the use of the commercial units, if the application is here given permission, could now fall or would now fall to us, together with any messy fallout, including legal or other fees, to enforce enforce the lease, which could be costly. This would in itself seem to be a form of potential public nuisance and therefore a licensing issue. On a wider scale, the Design and Community Code for Poundbury, updated in 2019, contains a list of stipulations that limit commercial property to A2 and B1 classes of the same 1987 order, which equally do not allow for the proposed use without express permission, in this case from the Duchy. Much rides on this application and this hearing. Centrally, the future well-being and amenity of residents who likely chose to buy homes and live in Poundbury because of the peaceful, safe environment, free from the noise, nuisance and potential trouble that too often plague the average high street, but also because this application is a challenge to the basic rules that imbue Poundbury like a name through a stick of seaside rock, which are designed to protect them from public nuisance, crime and disorder. So I also just wanted to bring to your attention, as we have done, that the landlord of the property has objected as well to this application. And one of those objections is that the premises are beneath residential units and a licence would be prejudicial to the free enjoyment of such by their owners, which sounds a bit like public nuisance to me. I would like you to reject this application for the reasons given and for this issue to be considered and dealt with locally by local people who have a stakeholder interest in the outcomes. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that. Just as before, let's briefly invite any of my colleagues if you have any questions of the submission at all.
I don't have any.
No?
Just one.
Please.
Do you have any problems with what's going on there now? Is there any noise that interferes with you at the moment?
No, it's absolutely fine. And I think also that some limited use would not have been an issue. We've talked about this at home and with residents. One thing that I just want to point out to you, and which really concerns us as well, which I failed to say just now, is that if a license were granted, it would be for the premises, right? I'm right in saying that, I think. And therefore, no matter what the good intentions are of the current occupants, future occupants, who knows, Wetherspoons, I don't know, could have licensing hours from 9 in the morning through to 11 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. Sorry, are you stopping me? Right.
Come in then.
Just for clarification on a licence can be granted. It's not a given that that licence is for the premises for a long time or for life, or if anybody would actually want to pass the licence on, they don't have to pass the licence on. If they were to leave that premises, then obviously that they could hand the licence back. So it would then become a normal property. With majority of licences, if a licence is granted and there are concerns around the way that conditions aren't being adhered to on the licence, and say that bins aren't being emptied at the designated time, there's people drinking beyond the hours that anybody should. What we would ask is for like a summary of events that are going on to see if there's like a chain of events, and a licence can actually be brought back to the committee for a review. Now, anybody can bring a licence back to the committee for a review, but what they need is evidence if there is anything untoward on the licence. In that respect, the committee could then make steps to either change the conditions on the licence. If the licence isn't being adhered to, they can also remove the licence. They can also take away scope of selling alcohol. So what I'm saying is, if a licence is granted, there are ways and means that it's not a permanent licence.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm just going to say, yes, you can. I'm aware that I did cut you off in mid-flow, so I'll allow you to carry on, and hopefully my colleague, who's done a far better job at explaining that than I would have done, has maybe assisted, but please carry on.
Well, yeah, thanks very much for explaining that. I think the concern would be that we certainly wouldn't want to get to that position, you know. It's like there must be some, you know, my wife and I live directly above, our floor is the shared ceiling, and we can just see that there could, but there hasn't been any noise so far because it's a quiet gallery, you know. Oh dear, sorry. I was supposed to take my blood pressure pills. Never mind. I'll be fine. So we've got that potential of this direct noise, and we wouldn't want to get to. And obviously, as landlords and ultimate freeholders, we would have to take on in the first instance any problem as a lease issue. But we don't want to get into that messy position. You know, it could be expensive. Like, you know, we're talking about legal fees. I mean, I'm sure these gentlemen don't seem to intend that, but we don't really know each other terribly well, you know, and so we don't know what might happen in the future, and we just do not want to get to that messy position where it's either we have to come back to you with a whole list of problems, which just isn't ideal, or we have to go through some legal process to deal with the lease. Anyway. I'll switch myself off.
Just moving to the officer, if you have any comments or questions at all.
Yeah, just about the planning side of it. The committee have to bear in mind what any planning restrictions are, but they're not bound by them, and vice versa with planning. So, for an example, if the planning permission was only till 9 p.m. at night, and they've applied for 11 p.m, they would only be able to go to 9 p.m. at night. So the planning, if you like, overrules the licensing. And also regarding what it could be for future use, we are only here to consider the application now and not what it could or possibly could be in the future.
Thank you. You just essentially answered a question I was going to ask of our legal team as well, so I suspect there's nothing further to add, but by all means, happy. And I will give the opportunity to the applicant to ask any questions, or please.
Thank you very much for answering that, because I think the caveats that are in place with this particular licensing is that you just mentioned, and all the defaults should something go wrong at that premises. You know, there's a sort of a boundary there that protects them licenses, and I think that explains to the gentleman there. The other thing about the residents currently in Crown Square, there is a cafe that has a cocktail and you know, a bar, wine and alcohol license and music, which is played. They've got a license till 11 o'clock at night, and that's directly opposite the gentleman's balcony and his premises, which is only 25 yards away. So they are playing music there where it's more of a bar, which we're not actually asking for. And the other point about the planning or the locality in Poundbury, I've already spoken to the Duchy at length, and the Duchy are fully supportive of the gallery and of the application that I'm proposing to put forward for a venue event, rather than, you know, a bar or a wine bar. So the Duchy are quite behind me on that, and I was only with them yesterday. So I think that the contentious or the problems about saying, you know, these are the things that to be raised, and I quite understand the gentleman's concern. They're not there, and the protections are in place, as you quite rightly said. And the locality, being the Duchy, I suppose, that oversees most of the things in Poundbury, are fully supportive of what we're doing. So that's all I really wanted to say. Did you want to say anything? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I just want to double check with colleagues if you have any further to add, because we make a quick note. One point I will quickly make is with regards to the information for the Duchy, I appreciate you sharing that with us, but for either party, just so you know, we have read the papers and the letters and everything as a company, but obviously this is what we would go by rather than conversations yesterday. But please.
Thank you. Prior to applying for your licence, have you ever held an event there under a temporary events notice? Prior to applying for this licence, have you ever held any events there under a temporary events notice? Have they?
No, we just had an opening, a grand opening, that was all, which the developers and a number of the developers had come along and just invited guests to the opening. And that was, there was no charge of any alcohol. Or we supplied some snacks and food and some wine and beer free of charge of just the event. That's the only time we had anything going on there.
Yeah, we haven't had a temporary event notice, and as the gentleman quite rightly said, if there's no sale of alcohol, then there's no TEN required.
Can I just ask how many people attended that event?
I would say, without taking all the names of the people, I would say there must have been maximum 70 people, yeah. It was very popular.
Thank you for that. I know you have something to add, so I'm going to come to you now, and actually we're going to move to the opportunity for all parties to sum up. So I'll invite you to do that as part of that. And we're going to go back to front, so you can start, and then we'll go around the room. So please. Sorry. And the only other thing I would ask is, in your summing up, if you can try and be fairly concise, because obviously you've spoken on some points already, so we'll try to avoid repetition, but please.
Are you giving me the opportunity just to respond a little bit, or to? Yes, okay. Well, there are two things there. Yes, the applicant is right. There is a wine bar, really, opposite, which actually isn't very successful. And I think it would be a real problem if it were, I mean, frankly, because the building it is at the bottom of is fully residential, and obviously we're right opposite. Sometimes the music can be a little bit noisy, and we're not even in the same building. But really, it's, hands full of people go there. And so it just doesn't seem to be working terribly well. I'm astonished, actually, frankly, that it got permission. I don't know how that happened, given or that it's also must be not out of the terms of its lease. It's quite interesting that there are two units which Morrish Homes are trying to sell there, and they can't do it. And I suspect I see people coming along and they realise it looks out onto the bar. The second thing is that there is only one formal response before this committee. Well, it's not really before this committee, but the landlord, Morrish Homes, of those commercial units has objected. It's just anecdote to say what the Duchy thinks or conversations. There's no paperwork proving that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'd like to move to the applicant, if you'd like to sum up your application. Oh, sorry, quickly, I'm just going to double check. Are you content with your submission there, or would you like to also sum up your position? Because I think, please.
That's fine, thank you, yep.
Just so I don't make sure it's unfair, that's all. Please.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Just to sum up or finalise, the application is presented to you from a purpose of a quality location, quality held events, which I believe would enhance many people within Poundbury and hopefully many people within Crown Square, and bring people more to the area of Crown Square, even though you have current businesses which unfortunately a lot are not doing very well. So I think it would highlight, not only from the gallery point of view, the people would talk saying what a wonderful event, and with the banking and with other private companies wanting to rent the space and come along and enjoy the space. And our intention is not to have anything I had a picture actually of the gallery, and it would be wonderful if I could show you this, the screenshot of the gallery, which is very, very nice. So it's not our intention to put a proposal forward to have some sort of, I think as the gentleman said, some maybe failed venue that's opposite us actually. That's not where we're coming from. We're coming from a quality gallery selling to high net worth people at sometimes and local people that enjoy art and enjoy a venue. Thank you very much.
And finally, to our officer.
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Just want to double check. Do you have anything to add, or are you content? Do you have anything to add, or you can? Again, to make sure I'm being fair. In which case, I just want to double check with our legal advisors that I've covered all the relevant points. If there's anything they'd like to add at all. Good. This is when the smiles turn to frowns, because I then asked them to just remind me of the dates and the working days and all these sorts of things for the next part, which I always forget to ask at the beginning of the meeting.
21 working days.
Fine.
So it's 5 days for the decision notice that we can't even.
Remind me of that again in about 20 seconds. Let me just read my bit out here a second. So, thank you all for attending. This meeting will shortly be adjourned, and at which point my colleagues and I will discuss the application and make a decision, at which point we will inform you of our decision in writing within 5 working days. And if you are not happy with the decision, you do have the right to appeal. That's the Magistrates' Court at Weymouth Magistrates' Court within 21 normal days. Happy? So in which case, if there's nothing else from anyone else, I would like to, I'll adjourn this meeting because we have another hearing, is that correct? We're going to close this meeting. We're going to close this meeting. So thank you all for attending, and I've just been told that we're closing. You've been overruled. We're going to close this meeting. I don't want to get in trouble with the boss in the corner. Thank you very much for attending. Good morning, everyone. My name is Craig Monks, Councillor Craig Monks, Bedminster Ward, and just to briefly explain to our attendees of the second application, at the previous meeting I was elected kindly by my two colleagues here as chairman of this subcommittee for the day, so we're not going to go through that again. That's why I'm sat in the middle. We will move on, though, to item 2 of the agenda. Any apologies for absence, please, John?
No apologies for absence, thank you.
And any declarations of interest at all? Happy? Marvellous. In which case, I am going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, please. I'll start, ladies first, to my left.
Good morning. My name is Councillor Emma Parker and I represent Puddletown and Lower Winterbourne Ward.
Good morning. My name's Councillor Andrew Starr. I represent Upton and Lishit. Thank you.
And we'll go around the room with officers and legal teams first, and then applicants and objectors, please.
Good morning, I'm Laura Autry from Legal Services.
And I'm Hannah Massey from Legal Services.
At the front.
John Miles, Democratic Services. I'll be taking the minutes for this meeting. Thank you.
And I'm Lewis Wicks, Democratic Services Officer Apprentice.
In the middle.
I'm Catherine Miller, Senior Licensing Officer and Report Author.
Roy Keepax, Senior Licensing Officer.
And applicant, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Martin Longman, thank you.
I'll just briefly explain for the benefit of councillors as well as members of the public that when you address the chair, if you turn the microphone on first, then it should be red at the top and then turn it off when you finish. Otherwise, you'll block everybody else out from speaking. So thank you. We have Dorset Police with us.
Hello, I'm Kirsty Gatehouse. I'm Licensing Officer for Dorset Police.
Thank you, Kirsty. And then we have two gentlemen to my right. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please.
Hello, I'm Steve Clements, the Welfare Officer of Weymouth Anglican Club.
My name is David Lane. I'm Chairman of the Club 24 and 25. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think everybody's introduced themselves. I'm going to take the last two agenda items briefly, and that is to ask our officer here if we have any urgent business or any other exempt business. Please, John.
So there are no urgent items and no exempt business for this meeting.
Thank you, which means I can then go to this agenda item, and then I've got some information to read, and then we'll go from there, if that's okay. So, Dorset Police have made a request for this hearing to be held in private. The request has been made on the basis that investigations relating to the reason for the review of this application are ongoing. The details of the investigations need to be kept confidential, but at the same time, this subcommittee needs to have those details so that we can make a fully informed decision. Whilst hearings are normally held in public, Regulation 14 of the Licensing Act 2003, Hearings Regulations 2005, does provide for the public to be excluded from all or part of the hearing, where the subcommittee considers that public interest in doing so outweighs the public interest in the hearing or part of the hearings taking place in public. So to that end, I would like to propose that we do just that and exclude members of the public from being present, and I'll let my colleagues to comment.
I second to go into exempt business. Thank you.
I support that.
Thank you. In that case, we will do just that. I'm going to go quiet a second just to make sure that we are offline, and then we'll continue the meeting proper.